Welcome to the Prophecy Club. We're going to talk about finances today, specifically the fall of the dollar. Now, I want to say right up front, I love America. I want to see America prosper and be a great nation again. I want to see everybody happy. I mean, I like going to the restaurant. I like enjoying the wonderful things of our nation just like everyone else. But my heart and your heart, brothers and sisters, can't be with this world. Our heart has to be after building the kingdom of God. We have to seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. Meaning, we have to put our heart first toward heaven. So, let's talk about finances. Yes, I've talked about suitcase nukes coming, and I think there's a very high probability that they are about to hit, and perhaps I'll get to that a little bit today also. Now, I'm having to make a bunch of broadcasts here in advance, as I've been saying. My wife and I are going to Malaysia, so I'm going to tell you when I'm making this broadcast so that you'll understand when it is behind the times according to what the news is going on. It is now 7:30 p.m. on a Sunday evening dated 5/12 of 2019. I just pulled this off of Benjamin Fulford's website. Based upon some things he's written, he doesn't seem to be a Christian. I haven't asked him directly, but the information he has comes from, how should we say, secular sources, information sources like the CIA sources and secret society sources that claim to be the good guys that are trying to expose the bad guys, the deep state, the international bankers, and things like that. Now, he just posted an article that I thought was real important for us to understand, because if the suitcase nukes go off here sometime before June, and that's, in my opinion, a high probability, some 20 of them, and I should take just a second to explain what I'm talking about, a suitcase nuke. Your Nagasaki, Hiroshima type bombs were about 4 kilotons each. I'm not getting into all the specifics. That's not my point today. But a suitcase nuke is about a 1 kiloton, and it basically turns a radius of 10 square city blocks, in other words, 10 blocks this direction, 10 blocks that direction, into 10,000 degrees, melting glass, steel, vaporizing concrete, everything. And that, of course, obviously kills everything there and a pretty good radius around it, along with a 200-mile-an-hour wind. But that's not the worst part. Then there is what we call a telephone pole with a mushroom on top because it hit 10,000 degrees, and that's also very bad, but that's not the worst part. Then there is radiation that comes out of that. Now, I know that the big scares is telling you that radiation is really, really bad. Actually, the more modern sources tell us that actually radiation is not that bad. If it does get on your hair, get on your clothes, you'll find yourself in the dust of it for a while, just take a shower and wash it off. Okay, don't just leave it on you, because then you absorb the radiation from it. It's not that bad. So what's the bad part of it? Okay, well, the bad part of it is that it does fall on all of the crops, all of the water in the area, and it poisons that. It makes that undrinkable and the crops uneatable. That's pretty bad, but there's something worse. Well, what can be worse than that? And that is reputation. In other words, once the mushroom cloud has drifted over, let's say, for example, a suitcase nuke went off downtown Dallas. Well, yes, it's going to kill some people. It's going to do a lot of damage. But physically, the nation or the city would still be able to be lived in. And there would be some fallout, but it wouldn't be as bad as probably, at least what my sources tell me, is what we've told it is in the past. Okay, so then what's so bad about it? Here's what's so bad about it. It basically kills the city, because then all of the property values drop because everybody thinks everything is radiated. It doesn't make any difference if you take a Geiger counter, say, no, my house, my business, this property is not radiated. Yeah, well, so you say, but I don't believe you. And so property values fall, and people of the city that weren't affected no longer want to live there, and the products that are made in that area. Nobody wants to buy anything made in Dallas, Texas, any place in the world, because they're afraid it is radiated. I don't care what the Geiger counter says. I'm not going to buy anything from Dallas, Texas. So that's the big bad part of it. So it essentially, at the end of the day, it kills the city. It doesn't kill everything in the city, but it just about devastates the city. I mean, pretty much the city is dead. Pretty much you better just move out as soon as it hits. See what I'm saying? Now, understanding that, there is a high probability. I put this in yesterday's broadcast. I'm probably not going to get into it today. But again, I'm saying there's a high probability that sometime before June, if we continue to push Iran, and here's the thing, the international bankers will be setting off the suitcase nukes. They will blame it on Iran, but I'm telling you right now, the prophecies say it is not going to be Iran. It is going to be the international bankers, and that's why I'm reading this. When they say, look yonder, see what Iran did. Iran set off these suitcase nukes all across America. I want you to understand it's not Iran. First of all, they're probably not smart enough. And again, I've covered this in yesterday's broadcast. Go back and listen to the broadcast. I cover all of the details there. I won't be able to make my point today if we talk about that. So let's go on. So anyway, it's dated 5/6/2019. From BenjaminFulford.com, headline is Bank of Japan to be nationalized as new era starts. That's real important. Read it again. I want you to think, brothers and sisters, you got to think this thing through. This is talking about the people that are probably the ones in ownership and in control of the suitcase nukes, meaning the evil international bankers. The article goes on to say, headline, Bank of Japan to be nationalized as new era starts. I'm not saying the Japanese have the suitcase nukes and they're setting them off. That's not my point. You'll miss my point if you understand that. So let's go on. Now that Japan has a new emperor, the Bank of Japan will be nationalized and Japan will be liberated, here it is, this is the important part, from the Khazarian Mafia. Okay, who's the Khazarians? The Bible says, behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. Actually, Revelation says that similar phrase a total of 2 times in the book of Revelation. In other words, there are some people out there that call themselves Jews that are not Jews, but they do lie. Now, here's the story on it. And again, I'm not getting into all that because we'll get off the point of what I'm trying to make today too. But about 2,500 years ago, there was a group of people, the Khazarians, that wanted to become Jews. And the Jews said, no, you can't. Well, we want to intermarry. No, you can't. Well, they just started calling themselves Jews anyway. And again, I'm not an expert in this, but my understanding is that today that is the likes of like the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, your international bankers, and it's what gives the Jews a bad name. Now, I know there's some ministers out there that don't like the Jews, but they don't like the Khazarian Mafia. The sons of Abraham, more specifically put, the sons of the children of Israel that are true children of Israel are not always that bad. Yes, they are stiff-necked and they make mistakes just like we make mistakes. But there's a specific group of people that are the Khazarians that call themselves Jews that aren't Jews, and they give the Jews a bad reputation. So please remember that when you hear people go beating up on Israel and beating upon the Jews, most of the time, they're not really the children of Israel. They're really the Khazarian. So let's understand that. Anyway, it says Japan will be liberated from the Khazarian Mafia. In other words, these Jews that say they're Jews, but they're not. They do lie. The Khazarian Mafia, according to the Japanese right-wing sources close to the emperor. This move, this is important, this move will force the Washington, D.C. political establishment into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Who is the Washington, D.C. political establishment? Well, some people call them the deep state. These are the people that hate Donald Trump. These are the people whose names are probably on many of the sealed indictments, part of the 94,000 people that, according to Q, says the arrests should take place in May. Now, he doesn't say that exactly. Well, here, I just pulled up his latest tweet or his latest post. Let me just read for you exactly what Q says. His latest, he just posted some more. Okay, well, what I was about to read to you is number 3331, and that was dated May 2 of 2019. Maybe I need to interrupt this broadcast and read for you what he just posted this. I mean, just in the last 5 minutes. So anyway, he says, you're witnessing the systematic destruction of the old guard, meaning the 94,000 people, many of them Khazarian Jews. They are not all Khazarians. They're not all international bankers, obviously, but they are all, according to the executive order that Trump signed, I believe it was like December 8th of 2018, and that is anybody that's been guilty of sex trafficking and corruption. Anyway, he goes on to say, you're witnessing the systematic destruction of the old guard. May, 2019, parenthesis, kickoff, parenthesis, start, parenthesis, offense, enjoy the show. Did he say there's 94,000 arrests about to take place in the month of May 2019? No, he didn't. But if you understand and if you know how to read between the lines, that's exactly what he said. Now, I'm going to go on and read. He's got 4 posts here, and this is the first time I've seen them because moments ago when I checked this before I started recording, these were not here. So let me go ahead and read them, and let's see if we can understand what he's saying. Now, this is post number 3332, dated May 12 at 19:10:40 Eastern Time. Capital letters, boom, week ahead. Treason doesn't pay well in the end. I'm going to interpret that to say arrest week ahead. I'm going to interpret that to say that this week is the arrests for the 94,000. Next one. This is number 3333, dated May 12, 1913:07 Eastern Time. It gives a Twitter click here, which obviously we don't have time to go look at here while we're recording. But it only has 2 words, eyes on. Let's go on to the next one. Attempts by Dems, fake news is in capitals, and those, quote, guilty of treason to shape the public narrative, parenthesis prior to, by providing falsehoods will fail. Truth to light, no sleep in D.C. I take that to mean the 4th time in a row that they're saying that the arrests are imminent. They're about to take place. Now, he's said this sort of stuff before, but it got delayed. And it may get delayed again. But I can't help that. I can only interpret what he is saying. And then the final one, and it is dated May 12, 1926:09 Eastern Standard Time. And it has a picture of, it looks like a Moab bomb. And that Moab, M-O-A-B, stands for Mother of All Bombs, is coming down to hit a man standing on the road. And he is issuing an expletive like he is doomed and he knows it. The words below says, Boom Time Baker. I think it's talking about, I forget his first name now, but one of the top people, what was it, CIA or somebody like that was a baker. Meaning, all 5 of those, in my interpretation, is saying that the arrests are about to take place. That ties in with what we're talking about tonight, so let's jump back over. Rereading the last line says, this move will force the Washington, D.C. political establishment into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. In other words, he's talking about the all capital letters, the United States of America. That corporation is in bankruptcy, and other sources have been telling me for the last 3 years that it has been in bankruptcy for 3 years. And now we're not talking about Chapter 11, where they can come out of it. What I've been told is Chapter 7, as in the corporation called the United States of America is dead, and they're about, I'll read what he says here. Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and paved the way for the restoration of the Republic of the United States of America. Now, I can't say too much other than to say I wouldn't be reading it if I didn't have further confirmations that what he just said was accurate. So let me read those last 2 lines again. If you can grab on to what I'm saying is stuff that is really big. Let me say it again. Now that Japan has a new emperor, the Bank of Japan will be nationalized. In other words, the Khazarian Mafia, the international bankers, are losing control of the international banking system. They're bringing in a new banking system, is what he is saying. I'm not saying it. I'm reading what he says. Will be liberated from the Khazarian Mafia. That's the international bankers. That's the deep state. That's the people that hate Trump. That's the people, the evil people in high places that own the money that rule the world, or used to. According to Japanese right-wing sources close to the emperor, this move will force the Washington, D.C. political establishment into Chapter 11 bankruptcy, meaning that the Federal Reserve dollar, just like the prophets have been saying, is about to be worthless. I didn't say that. That's what the prophets say. Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and pave the way for the, listen carefully, listen carefully. Real big stuff here. For the restoration of the Republic of the United States of America. Now, what I just said is more than you know. What I just said is so important, you can't even believe it, and I cannot begin to go in to explain to you why that's so important. All I can say is, listen up. I'll read that again. If you can just believe what I'm saying, it's true. I can't tell you why I know it's true. It's just true. So it's going to pave the way for the restoration of the Republic of the United States of America. I'll say it again. That's so important. In other words, the old Federal Reserve, the old guard, that's what Q just said, the old guard, the old international bankers, those people that have ruled our finances, the world finances for 230 years, they are crumbling. They're bringing in a new financial system. And I'd like to say it's a good financial system, but you and I know that one of these days, somehow, even if it does start off good, the mark of the beast is going to be part of it. The Antichrist is going to be part of it, and he's going to take over. But at least for now, it appears that the old guard, the old evil guard, the old international bankers, the bad people are being taken down. At least they're trying to. Let me go on here. So they're saying that the old guard, the Chapter 11, the Federal Reserve types, and I can't say that the Federal Reserve is going away, though I have heard that from a lot of places, but I can't say that I know that that's true. Pave the way for the restoration of the Republic of the United States of America. I'll say it again. The Republic of the United States of America. If you can just believe what I'm saying there, listen to those words. Remember those words. Those words are going to come back to you, and you're going to hear those words in high places. The Republic of the United States of America. Pentagon sources say. The liberation of Japan will be a decisive victory for humanity. What does that mean? It means that the old guard, the international bankers, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and those types are losing control. That's what he's saying. Victory for humanity in the ongoing, undeclared, secret battle for the planet Earth. I will say the secret battle for the financial system of planet Earth. Asian Secret Society and CIA sources agree. To understand how important this is, let's start by looking at why the Washington, D.C. establishment and its Khazarian Zionist masters are mathematically doomed. So what he's saying is that the old Federal Reserve dollar, the Federal Reserve system, is just about gone. They're just about dead. They're just about gone. Well, that fits with what the prophet's been telling us, right, brothers and sisters? All right, let's go on. The breakdown of trade negotiations last week between China and the United States regime headed by Donald Trump is likely to be the immediate trigger for the bankruptcy of Washington, D.C. Did you hear that? Let me read that again. The breakdown of trade negotiations last week between China and the U.S., headed by Donald Trump, is likely to be the immediate trigger for the bankruptcy of Washington, D.C. That's not bad for Trump. Trump is one of the good guys that is trying to make this happen. He's trying to remove the old guard. He's trying to remove the deep state. He's trying to move all of these corrupt people that are controlling our nation, you understand. Let's go on. That's because without the promised $1 trillion worth of Chinese purchases of U.S. goods, there is no way the U.S. can stay solvent. The U.S. government has been trying to pretend all is well by jacking up the stock market with Federal Reserve Board money, faking unemployment figures and other measures. However, denying reality will not help. This great article by Michael Snyder lists 19 facts that blow, quote, all is well story right out of the water. This U.S. Treasury Department was able to end a 35-day government shutdown early this year by stealing tax refunds and looting public pensions, but these tricks bought only enough time to keep it going until July. Treasury expects that the extraordinary measures will be exhausted sometime in the second half of 2019. When's that? That's just right around the corner, said Treasury Deputy Assistant Secretary Brian Smith. Now, as you recall, we've been telling you this. We've been saying, look, these things, these changes are coming. We've been talking about this. So this is not a bad thing. This is actually a good thing. Remember, Jeremiah 51 verse 9 says, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsaken, let every man return into his own country. There's going to be a time when the Spirit of God is going to tell us to leave this nation, and that's exactly what we're going to do. As he directs, we will do. Now let's get on to the next part, because very important sentence here. He says they were hoping for a big infusion of Chinese money by then, but Asian secret society sources say a decision has been made to stop financing the warmongering, Zionist-controlled political apparatus in Washington, D.C. Do you remember Lindsey Williams came on and he said that as long as Donald Trump is the president, that the Khazarian, he didn't say Khazarian, he said the international bankers or the deep state, they are going to do everything they can to try to not allow the financial economy to crash because they know that Donald Trump will not bail them out like Bush did. He's not going to bail them out. And so they're doing everything they can to try to prop it up. But it is apparently the hand of God that is making these big, huge changes in our financial system, which is a good thing. All right, now let's go on. Even though the new Japanese regime will keep buying all the U.S. treasuries they can afford, parenthesis, because they do not want China to take over the world, it won't be enough, according to the Japanese right-wing sources. The Zionists, meanwhile, with their moves to start World War III thwarted, okay, wait a minute, what? Okay, now I'm going to say something that I can't prove. I'm going to say something that I heard this also from Benjamin Fulford's website, benjaminfulford.net, by the way. It's not .com. I think it's .net. Yes, I just checked it. It's .net. I believe he was the one that said, remember that missile that supposedly was fired toward Hawaii, and there was a missile cell message that went out to everybody and said that missile inbound or something like that. This is not a drill. And then they all came and said, well, it was a mistake. It was a mistake. They didn't mean to send that out. Well, baloney. Now, Benjamin Fulford says, and I determined that I wasn't going to put this on the air because I couldn't find in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. But so I'm telling you right now, it's not a confirmed thing. I don't have 2 witnesses on this. But he said that there was a missile that was flying toward Hawaii, but the United States arranged to have it blown out of the sky, and that it was all part of the Khazarian mafia trying to start World War III. And there's a whole lot more on that, but again, I couldn't confirm it in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, so I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know that I necessarily believe that, but the point is these people are evil, and they're in very, very high, powerful places. They control the world's money, or at least they used to, and they do not want to lose their control. They do not want to be booted out, and that is exactly what is in the process of happening. Well, how does that fit in with our little scenario? We're going to talk about that. Let's go on, though. He says the Zionists, meanwhile, with their moves to start World War III thwarted, have been reduced to attacking a small ghetto of mostly unarmed civilians inside the Gaza Strip. You can be sure that there also will be new provocations, listen carefully, in Iran, Venezuela, and elsewhere by the desperate Zionists. What he's saying is the deep state is trying to start a war so that they can stay in power. Because if they start a war, then they will be needed, and the countries will have to, this is what they're thinking, will have to borrow money from. These are the people that got their start when England needed money for a war, and they went to, who was it? The Rothschilds, and the Rothschilds rounded up the money and loaned them the money for a war. Well, after that, they began, what they would do is they'd go to the North and they'd say, okay, we'll loan you money to go fight the South. But if you win, you have to pay off your debt and the South's debt. Then the South comes to them and says, we need money to fight the North. And they'll say, well, okay, we will loan you the money, but if you win, you also have to pay off the debt of the North. In other words, they stand in the middle with no way to lose. And they borrow or they lend the money, and they control everything, and they have done this with most of the wars around the globe for the last 230 years. That's a whole topic. I don't have time to get into it. I'm not an expert on that, and that's the reason I don't generally talk about it. But I've read books, I've read articles enough to lightly know that this is true. You can be sure that there also will be new provocations in Iran and Venezuela and elsewhere by the desperate Zionists, or we would call them the deep state, or the international bankers, whatever you want to call them. Meaning this thing in Iran, this thing in Venezuela, and probably Syria, in other words, these are evil people with lots and lots of money and lots of control, and they've been controlling and ruling the world for 230 years, and their world is falling apart. I believe this is God giving us the opportunity to take back our world, and if we don't take it back, then he's going to loose the beast upon the world. And of course, you and I already know the answer, what really happens there. But let's go on. However, even if the Washington, D.C. government manages to use war, blackmail, or something like that to kick the can down the road again in July and get permission to borrow more money, the way things are going by 2024, all U.S. borrowing will be used to pay interest on debt. Now, that's the end of the article. It's essentially saying that we're looking at a new financial system heading our way. And in the process of that new financial system, I think anybody would realize it is reasonable to believe that there's going to be some hard times financially. So let's look at what some of the other prophets say about that. Warren says, I saw God prospering greatly, many acquiring things in a transfer of wealth coming to the hands of believers. What? Wait a minute. I thought you just said that there was difficulty in finances coming. Yep, there is. But in the middle of all that, Warren also was shown that the church somehow fell into some money, and the church was the one that was able to give help. Doesn't that sound like God right in the middle of all the trouble? All of a sudden, the church has money? Then Bennett said there will be a change in the U.S. currency. A different currency is going to come, at least one, that will entail us no longer being the reserve currency of the world. Doesn't that make sense? If the old Federal Reserve dollar is about to fall apart, doesn't it make sense that there would be a new Federal Reserve dollar coming out? Sort of makes sense, doesn't it? Patricia Green said the United States of America is about to swing into a new season. At first, it will be a prosperous time, but it will be short-lived. Here's another one. In the dream, the dollar was devalued. I was speaking with my builder, and he told me that the price to renovate my home had increased tenfold. Everything costs more. I saw people frantic. Some were blessed and had a little cushion, but they knew it was not going to last long due to the devaluation of the dollar. Everyone's face was in a panic. The revalued money was not going to help much as the prices had skyrocketed. I looked around, people were panicking. They were running around trying to decide, what do I do? What do I do? They were trying to decide to buy groceries or what do I do? Finally, because they began to realize that what we had been telling them about the last days was true. Fear was in their heart and their faces. Most could not be comforted, nothing to hope in. Great fear and panic was everywhere. Maurice Sklar says the American dollar is about to lose 30% more of its present value. This will be the second drop since the previous 2008 drop of 20%. The dollar will then be worth half of what it was before September 2008. This drop will cause great economic stress upon our nation. Could you live inside your home without going out your door, without passing by your windows? Could you stay there for 30 days? Do you have the food? Do you have the water? Do you have the way and the means to protect you as the thugs come start knocking on your door and beating down your door and breaking in your windows? Can you defend yourself? You need to ask those questions. In the meantime, get my book, brothers and sisters. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your prayers. And thank you for your gifts of support. God bless. In 2017, I memorized the book of Revelation. God showed me a single word, first fruits, is a secret door found in Revelation and Leviticus. When linked together, the end-time events can be placed in chronological order. For the first time, we can know what feast Jesus returns on, the feast for the judgment seat of Christ on the great white throne, and the feast upon which the wheat is resurrected, and on the day the New Jerusalem comes down to earth. And even though I've been in Bible prophecy for 40 years, I freely admit to you that I knew nothing that is revealed in this book supernaturally. So you probably know nothing that is in this book. One prophetic word said, there is a lock that I have put over a word in the book of Revelation that I'm going to open unto you. It will turn many books written on the end-time message into obsolete books. That's this book. Don't get one for $20. Instead, get 5 for $30 or 10 for $55. Or a new case price, 60 books for $250. That's 60 books in a case for $250. The secret door to understand Bible prophecy at prophecyclub.com.